And welcome to Sarah Burns and the Inviibles. You have found us in this beautiful cyberland. Here I am in Victoria, BC, not Victoria, BC, Salt Spring Island. I've just been preparing a class for Victoria, an energetic hygiene class. I'm going to be teaching at the end or mid-June, if any of you are in Victoria. So who do we got here? Let's see. Oh, we got Katie. So for anyone that's here today, I am in the office. So hopefully my reception is way better than last week. We had a bit of a last week reception cutout. So let's just setting the intention today for wisdom and teachings that are here to support the evolution of all beings, the growth of your offering to yourself, to humanity, to the planet, and the ripple effect of the choices that you make in your life. And so taking to heart and understanding the importance and really feeling honored to have your questions. That really means a lot to me and to my invisible friends to have the trust of you with these deep personal questions of yours and these intimate questions and these questions that are possibly vulnerable. So firstly, just acknowledging that and acknowledging your courage to reach out for support in all of these councils that we've had. This is our 48th episode. And actually next week, for anyone, I'm going to get to this now before getting to questions, is I'm going to be going to Spirit Weavers. Yay! So I'm going to be traveling all Wednesday. So I might not even be back until 2 weeks from now. So this might last for a couple weeks. I'll keep you guys up to date. So just ringing the bell just to bring us into presence and allowing this sound to support our clarity in this journey together today with these transmissions, and setting the intention that each of you will use your own discernment of what's important for you. So believe it, receive it, leave it, or lend it are the guidelines to any of the teachings that come up. Here we go. So I like to start out with my own question. Hello, everyone, by the way, who's on. We got Allison and Katie. So the question that I have today is in connection with time, because I've been exploring my relationship with time and what that means to me to really honor time and to commit to working within the guidelines of time. And then where does time become magical? Where's that mystical place where time and magic and how do I describe this? Just I'm finding more and more that as I honor time and as I honor that construct, it's actually capable, it's supporting me in having a greater human experience in this very interesting way. So with that, I want to speak to the Inviibles with my question, which is if they have any insight or teachings around time, around the magic of time and how we work with time. And so after I get through my question about time, I'm going to get through the questions in the order that they appeared. So please feel free to put your question on the thread beneath. If you send me a private question, please remind me throughout if I haven't been getting to your question, because sometimes they get lost and my internet gets a little chunky when trying to find them. Here we go. So here, let's explore time. If time is a room, or moreover, if each hour of the day is a room. A room with different lighting, a room with different sensations. A room that is holding space for you in some way. And what happens in life is that as you start structuring yourself, as you start planning and creating schedules and routines, you begin adding those into these rooms. And what we're seeing with time that many people forget is that by acknowledging that there is a container, that when you honor that container, when you honor with your actions, with how you show up, with how you're accountable with your words, to align yourself with that room, you'll notice that there are ways that more life energy can actually come into your day. Because when using time in a way that is supportive of your great potential, you actually are changing your relationship with life by seeing that life is moving fast. And what you are capable of creating in this life requires you to be dedicated to the focus, to the persistence, and to honoring time as an ally in supporting you reaching these goals in this lifetime. It's important that you understand in this lifetime, as you're allotted each breath, with it comes a responsibility to do your best to honor the reason and the gifts that you have inhabited, that have inhabited you, that you carry for the world. By showing up and continuing the momentum of your life in progression and in alignment with time. That time reminds you that life is short. To make the most of each moment. Thank you. Oh. And that kind of reminded me of this vision I had once where I was looking over this labyrinth, and it was kind of, or not even a labyrinth, it was like a maze. And it was a very clear maze. Like, it was a maze that didn't really have that many dead ends. It was kind of, you just had to make your way through it. And I was looking over almost like an eagle, like flying over this big maze. And I could see a little light like enter into the beginning of the maze and start traveling through the maze. And I was watching it, and it made its way all the way to the end. And then it, came out of the maze, and this voice came beside my ear and said, "Isn't life short?" And it kind of made me think that, from this other perspective, from this more expanded perspective, it's our lives can be like that little light, that comes into the maze, comes into this life, moves around, and then all of a sudden, poof, we've completed our mission, right? And so how to honor each day with our awareness and our presence and our receptivity to what is needed of us in this day. And that's something that I've been praying for, and it's been so amazing when I remember to wake up and say, Creator, or whoever you wish to speak to, higher self, divine light, God, goddess, saying, Creator, allow me to be or I am here to be of service for the highest and best good and the highest and best way to what is needed of me today, right? How am I capable of really showing up what's needed of me to show up for, to create the relationships to have today, the interactions, the creations to have today? What is truly needed today of me? And sometimes it can be easy to feel the whole picture, like what is needed of me in this lifetime, but to like kind of sum it down each day, waking up with these fresh eyes and say, Creator, I'm here to be of service to the great workings and the great majestic tapestry of this life. Show me how to be of service today. What is needed of me in my unique blueprint for this planet? So moving on, we've got Eleanor, Viola. So, oh, Allison said, I'm the best. Oh, thank you. So the first question, I'm just going to see if we have any private questions. All right. So the first question we have is from Viola. Hey, sweetie. Okay. And so Viola's saying, hi, feeling vulnerable, a lot of energies moving with my moon, men's in my life. Being in transition is not easy to ground. My boundaries are being tested. I'm open to receive any help, guidance, to feel safe and let those pains go clear in the highest and best, to heal my heart from lower connections. All right. It's interesting. They kind of just told me something about, like, I do my best to articulate what I saw because it doesn't quite make sense to me, but it doesn't have to. So what I saw was, I heard like diabetes, and then I was thinking of like sugars and sweets, and like how in this overindulgence too, that's when you can also create this extreme reactions, right, in life. So when there's like almost like too much sweets, then you can actually flip the pattern in your body to not be able to handle it and get intolerant. And I'm curious if, I'm not sure why that's coming up, but I felt like not censoring myself. Maybe there's something to explore if there's something in your life that, I don't know, maybe you've had to, I'm not sure. Maybe it's about too much men in your life. Okay. All right, let's see. It's interesting, like, I was closing my eyes and all I could see was this image of you on this treadmill. Like you're just like running and running and running. I'm not sure if it's symbolic or if it's actually potentially actually getting yourself like to a gym or to a place that you can just start working on your body. Or if it means that you've just been running and feeling like you're going nowhere. But getting a great exercise, right? Sometimes life is like that. As for how to feel safe and let these pains go, yeah, like what I was hearing is feeling, let's see what they'll say. You're remembering who you were before doubt was in your life, right? Because in remembering who you were, what that blueprint of trust is, that each child is gifted coming into this life, that there is a blueprint on how to live the most nourishing, fulfilling, expansive, expressive life given to each being on this planet. But that blueprint does not mean it will give you the success that you may feel represents that you are following the steps that you have been given from that blueprint. You see, the thing about life is that on a soul level, success is very different. On a soul level, how much money you have, how much friends you're in connection with, who you're becoming, all of these do not represent the kind of success that the soul truly believes in. Because at the end of your life, success is monitored by have you followed your internal compass? Have you trusted what you've known to do? Have you had compassion for your process? Have you allowed yourself to live from a place of love? That's success to the soul. You can live from a place of love, and most likely not everyone will still have the outward expression of success, right? But for you, what we're seeing is that there is a desire for something to look and feel different, to prove to yourself that you are on the right direction. And what we want to say is that as you allow yourself to soften into the success that your soul acknowledges in your life, to leave the ego, to leave the mind, to leave the logic, to leave the societal imprints and programs of success behind just for a moment. They play their role, they play their purpose. But to go to the soul level and feel, have you been living your life with love as the base? Have you been trusting your internal navigation? And where you have, reeling in that feeling that you've made it. You've made it to your destination. On a soul level, the destination is being embodied in those simple yet profound teachings. Why we're sharing this with you and with everyone that this applies to is that until you allow yourself to acknowledge and pay respect to the success that you are living embodiment of, there will be pain. Because that longing to feel accepted, to feel like you have accomplished why you were brought onto earth, can subside. Because the first person that grants you that feeling of being part of something greater, of being loved, of being cared for, of being respected for whatever stage of your walk in this life you're at, that very first person is you. Thank you. So just acknowledging the successes in each of our lives, the successes around us, that those successes on a soul level, those moments when we've said yes to that compass, to that internal navigation, when we've trusted those instincts, whether or not they appear to be completely absurd and just far left wing, or wherever that's called, that baseball term. So just appreciating each of you, appreciating you each for those moments, those successes on a soul level, right? Yes. So moving on, the next question we have. Allison. Hi, Allison. Are you still here, my dear? Allison Greenbaum, are you here? I'm deciding to start asking if people are here so that we make sure I'm not just speaking to the screen. Allison, my dear, are you here? It is your question. Oh, you are here. For some reason, I'm not able to pick it up. Okay, you're here. So for anyone that's not aware, I'm just not able to see any comments right now for some reason. But you're here. Wonderful. Okay. Thanks for responding so many times. All right. So let's get to your question. What should I be aware of in general if I continue with what I am doing? And you're so very welcome. You are allowed to inherit your birthright of being seen. And so what we're seeing is that in some way, what you are doing is helping some part of you feel seen. Okay? But in that way of being seen, it's important for you to be able to address which parts of you are not being seen or are being projected upon. Okay? Not by yourself necessarily, but in some cases, how you see yourself. And so in this direction you're going, there is a level of becoming transparent, yet holding a certain, let me describe this. It's interesting. It's like they're showing me this image of you like holding this like big glass pane or like window pane or some sort of barrier so that people can see you through it, but you're not necessarily fully, it's like you're not necessarily fully accessible, if that makes sense. Like the image of you and the metaphor and the symbolism of you holding this glass pane, this glass window pane is almost like it's taking so much energy, or a lot of your focus is towards holding up this, whatever this barrier is, or this maybe is a form of protection. I'm not sure what it is that you're not necessarily capable of creating. I don't know if it's creating as much or participating as much in what I'm here is like engages your trust in the world. But there's something about I don't know if it's judgments or if it's what is this? One of them is saying, one of them saying something about letting go of the arena of doubt, and they're showing me this image of almost this like horse arena, like this like big fenced in area, and let's see. Something that what's happening with the direction you are going in is it is providing you with a form of whether it's income or some sort of being reimbursed or reimbursed for your exquisite connection to detail, right? In how you see and how you express and how you touch. But what we want you to feel into is how can you use this platform that you've been working with to actually embody more of your calling as a priestess. It's interesting. So they're showing me this almost like with the direction and without much information. I don't have information about what you're doing. I kind of have a feeling, but it's like this, they're showing me this way of how can you bring more of your way and your way of space holding and like priestessing. I don't know if that term makes much sense to you, but into the work you're doing so that it doesn't have to be as, because like this whole thing, whatever you're holding up, whatever that symbolizes, and maybe you can kind of go into that a bit. It's like, what does this window pane symbolize to you? Like, what are you holding up that's in between you, this barrier that you can still be transparent to a point, but it's actually taking a lot of energy from you, or at least it's taking focus. Because what they're showing me is that, you know, even if you're just the idea, like if you're holding up, you know, something like a window, like a piece of glass, it's not. I mean, at the beginning, it's really not that much extra work. It's not like you're trying to hold up a car or something. But over time, that's when it starts wearing on you. And they're showing like that's when it wears on your body. That's when you can really start feeling that really what you've been holding to make this all work. And there's something like 2 Novembers from now, I'm not sure. But they're saying that in this way of holding, they want you to remember and acknowledge that you have been holding something up. And because sometimes what can happen is when we have these ways of these systems, right? Like so whatever this system is that you have, whatever this symbolizes, this glass pane that you're holding up, is that sometimes these systems that we have in play can actually, as life moves on, we can kind of almost forget, or I'll say I've experienced, you know, forgetting that I've been holding up this shield for a long time in order to exist. And that was an experience with my situation in the past where I had to put a lot of protective shields around me in order to do the work that I was doing, in order to live the lifestyle I was doing, to be such a rogue, wild traveler being that I was. And it was only over a certain amount of time that I realized that at first I'd consciously created these shields and created these protections and created these systems to help me really work with life. And then over time, what happened was I realized that I'd forgotten that I had all these shieldings up and that these shields were actually getting in the way of my experience with life. And so even though I was coming to places where I actually didn't need to have these shields up, I had forgotten that they were up in the first place. And so I went through this whole system, especially coming to Hawaii, where I started taking my shields down consciously and being like, wow, I haven't been feeling as much. Like I actually had my own shielding system had actually been numbing me to my capacity to have my human experience, which is so fascinating. And so the more I release these shields, the more I'm actually able to feel what my internal compass is, there's more energy available when you realize what I've realized in myself, and this can possibly relate to whoever this relates to, but when you realize what kind of protocols or protection that you've been holding, or systems for help you deal or cope with what's happening, how much energy has been going into just that coping or that process. And then if that energy was actually brought back into yourself and you could consciously choose to use it for something else, what would you choose to put that energy into? And how could that actually change your life? Like if your hands were free from holding that glass, what could you create? How could you have more life force? So that's a bit of what I was seeing. So to address what is that you're holding, and then getting conscious and bringing to surface, do you desire to continue to hold that? Is that still relevant? Is it still helpful? Because it over time is going to really create an effect on your body if it already hasn't. Something about your left lung too. All right, thank you, Mr. Allison. So moving on, we got Donnie. Hey, Donnie. And so for anyone popping on too, I'm going to be traveling to Oregon next week. So I'm actually not going to do Ask the Inviisbles next week because I'm going to be on a ferry going to Port Angeles, and but I am thinking of doing Ask the Inviisbles in Ashland and possibly in Portland. So if any of you guys are in that area, or if you have friends that you would think want to come, I have a venue I think lined up, but we'll see. And that would be on the 5th of June in Ashland. 4th June. Last minute. All right. So the next question we have is from Eleanor. Hello, Eleanor. Okay. So Eleanor is saying, hello. I was wondering if you're able to guide me in any way. I feel like a lost soul. I feel like I'm craving a connection with someone or something, as I do feel rather different from most people, which leads me to feeling rather lonely. Do you have any guidance, please? All right. I can totally relate. You can only imagine my... Yeah, and I think something that I realized in life as I started really finding these kindred connections. And when I mean kindred, it's these people in our lives that just live and breathe and speak the language that we know, right? The language of consciousness, the language of just how they relate to life and how they choose to engage with life and create with life is so nourishing and in alignment with how we choose to create and relate with life. And the more that I realize that that's actually so important to my own evolution, right? That these connections can actually be very beneficial to us finding ourselves and to having these relationships that really reflect these parts of ourselves that are desiring to upgrade, that are desiring to evolve through these connections. And so I hear that in this feeling lonely around not having people that can help reflect and also inspire you to grow more into yourself in your life. It's a thing. I know for me, I was a firm believer in, if your current situation is not speaking to that, like in the past, when I was younger too, I just went on some adventures. I wouldn't necessarily suggest everyone do what I did, because I hitchhiked across the country and just went on wild adventures. But I do know that there was something about, I almost feel like I've told you this before for some reason, but when it's time to transition where we're at. And it's not always as easy as like, okay, just pick up and leave and like start fresh. I'm not encouraging that. Oh wow, there's a little raven just stopped by my window and took a poop. Okay. So let's see what they have to say. Firstly, it's in those connections where we are seen that feeling of being lost can subside. Because being lost is not as easy as to be found is not as easy or as straightforward as one would think. Right? To be found requires being seen, requires those who are seeing you to know some of the gateways and the directions that you're ready for. And why we're bringing this up is that we feel that there is a direction that you're yearning to find and align with. But what is getting in the way of you finding that crossroad is realizing that you've been to it. They're showing something like November, July, 2014, 2016. Not quite sure, but so that crossroad that you are seeking requires you to take action. It's not enough to feel it in your body, because when the feeling of being lost, when the feeling of depression sweep over you, in some cases it's because there's a stagnation of choice, okay? That there's the capacity to make a decision and commit to it and follow through beyond the discomforts of not knowing the outcome. And when that does not happen, that stagnation can form. Those patterns can build upon themselves. And the healing needed to actually restore your sense of faith in yourself to be able to get yourself out of the pit. That's the problem with so many people, is losing faith in the direction that they have created for themselves. And that rippling into losing faith for your own trust in how you navigate life. You see, life is not always as straightforward as always feeling clear and wonderful. To show you are on the right path. Sometimes being on the correct path that is leading in the direction you need will be discomforting. We'll have challenges, but it's up to you to understand that those challenges are initiations that are set up for you to succeed, for you to move through them and be changed forever for it. So where in your life are the initiations that you're desiring not being taken advantage of, not being met with your actions? It's interesting. They're showing me this. They're actually showing me something about my old school. Oh, the candle just went out. They're showing me something. I went to a school called Ursula Franklin for a moment in high school, and it was during this time where I was in this other school, and it just really wasn't like feeding me in a certain way. Like I felt like as high schools can do. And when I went to this school, it was like all of a sudden, and in order to go to school, I had to like carve that direction out for myself. It wasn't something that my parents were doing or had the time for. I had to actually just sit down and acknowledge that where I was at was not serving me and that there was something better and I just didn't know what it was. But I was going to take the initiative to really take action in carving that pathway towards something better. And so I found this school, and I actually dropped out of high school, to be quite honest, But I didn't drop out because my school wasn't awesome. I dropped out because that school and making that decision to commit to myself and my needs and my path in this life was actually, after that school lined me up with the next stage, right? It lined me up with that clear pathway that I needed of trust in this inner narrative and this inner navigation, that the main person that could hear it was me, right? And so realizing that there's a navigation within you and you just have to listen to it. And whether it's like, sometimes these navigations, these codes or these keys come up as just reoccurring like ideas or feelings like, oh, I'd love to maybe go to this place, or there's this person I keep thinking of. And realizing sometimes I've explored, as you explore these codes and these keys that life gives to you, almost like this magical hunt, this detective hunt for, sniffing out the next pathway, the next direction. It's so rewarding to realize that when these synchronicities come up, they're here for a reason. They're here as the gift. You're not alone in this life. You and your guides and your ancestors and the celestial realms and all of these benevolent, supportive allies of yours are actually standing right beside you. They're here. They're holding you. They're desiring you to have the most optimal life so that you can truly be of service, right? And that's the beauty of, as we commit to these fulfilling lives and what it requires for us to make this possible, we're actually capable. In my experience, I'll stop saying we, but in my experience, I found that the more fulfilling my life is, the more I commit to nourishing and listening to these pathways and these signs and these signals from Creator. It's almost like I like these tiny little tests that I've experienced in life, like these little checkpoints where I've just like trusted and gone for it, right? That those open up whole arenas of possibilities. And so for you in your life right now is, I want you to explore what are some of these signs that have been kind of pecking on your window, right? That are here and that have been here. And where are your blockages, or what's getting in the way of you just listening and following through with those signs? Whether it's even something as simple as like, go talk to this person, go express this feeling you have for this person, go on an adventure, stop eating this thing, stop, like whatever those are, just explore those. And so in the next 3 days, something that you can do, and this is an exercise if anyone's watching that's interested, is that you can ask for, in the next 3 days, a very clear, definitive, obvious sign from the universe, from Creator, from whatever essence you choose to speak to, your higher self, an obvious sign that is going to provide you with the opportunity to make a choice that will truly align you or realign you with the path of least resistance. So call forth that. Call for this obvious sign. It can come through the dreams. It can come through serendipity and circumstances in your life. But knowing that in the next 3 days, go track that. And when that comes up, know that it is your responsibility now to pass this test. Okay? You got this. And I'd love to hear when that sign comes up and how you related to it. All right, thank you. So, moving on. Oh, and the cat. Yeah, I'm passing through Portland. Maybe I'll talk with you about. So, I'm also exploring today. Eleanor says, wow, that was truly amazing. Thank you so much for your words. They really resonate with me. I will definitely tell you the sign. Awesome. Oh, we got Christian here, Donnie, and Kat. So the next question we have, and I'm going to be doing this thing as to honor my the request of my husband and time. So for anyone that wasn't here earlier, if you want to catch the time question, that was my first question, was I'm working with time and how to honor time and how to respect time and play with the magic and mysticism of time. So to do that today, I'm going to start actually keeping Ask the Inviisbles. I'm going to experiment doing them for an hour, so ending at 3:30. So whatever questions I can't get to by 3:30, we can get to the next week. So that's my exploration, because I actually have my husband coming to pick me up at 3:30. So with my daughter, so that's a helpful incentive. So let's see, we've got Katie and let me just see if there's any. All right, I think we. Oh, I see a little message from Erin. Oh yeah, baby, tell her like it is. I'm just thinking if we have any private messages that I'm not seeing. Okay. All right, so I read your message, Emma. That's a great idea. I'm gonna look into that. All right, so the next question, I think I've got question for time for two people. So for Katie and Donnie. And then that will be, I don't know if I'll be able to get to you, Christian, because I'm going to end at 3:30. And that's, but we'll see. We'll see how we can do quickie questions. But I want to honor what wants to come through. So Katie, you were the question that got cut off last week. Thank you all. I don't know how long you guys were waiting around when my reception at home was really funny last week. So Katie says, my question today is in regards to my health and strange sensations I've been having. Could I be intuitive and an empath? Is it connected? It's all connected, baby. But let's see in relation to your health. All right, let's take that off. Surely there's a membrane that you experience in life. And this membrane is between you and the world. But that world you see isn't just the people and places and experiences around you. It's a world that you've been taught. And the thing that's tricky about being taught is that the mind then brings that world inside of you. That what you believe can become expressed in your body. And so we want you to go into the fabric of what you believe in, that you've been taught to believe in. Because your health is very much connected to that. Yes, being an empath can stimulate these responses. Whether it's you believe that in order to be of greatest service, you must take on some of the suffering on the planet. But for you, the belief that we're hearing is that in order to succeed, you must become vulnerable. And in that vulnerability, prevent yourself from affecting the outcome. And though this may seem confusing, What we're noticing for you is that there is miscommunication. There is a place where vulnerability has been actually manipulated as making yourself naked to the incoming choices of others. That it's different to be vulnerable and then to be open and receptive. The thing about vulnerability is it's like a child whose mother is not there to scoop them up before the cliff. That vulnerability requires you to have someone or something outside of yourself come in to protect you. And when that's not there, that's when the patterns start affecting you. And why we're saying this is that we want you to reclaim what it is to being receptive yet protective of your needs, even if it requires you. They're like, even if it requires you to be an outright bitch. Sorry, that was just what I said. And like the image that I'm seeing is like, and I do feel like there is this interesting pattern around, and like belief structures that have come around like and for me, like maybe these words don't actually relate, maybe they're not the most appropriate words for you, but like what they're showing is that there's a level of protectiveness that's actually like really admirable and honorable, right? There's this form of Buddhism called ruthless compassion, the way of, the path of ruthless compassion. And it's understanding when it's time for you to be like outright, just completely direct and honest. And in that honesty, you're actually creating the space for a really clear, distinctive place where you have created a choice and you are expressing your truth without fearing the repercussions of that truth to the people in your life. And so as an empath too, what can happen is, this is actually, so in the class I teach, which is coming to Victoria, I'm excited about it, but in the class I teach, there's one of the, it's all about empathy, it's called energetic hygiene, and one of the families of the empathic family is the interpersonal empath, right? And so part of one of the downfalls is this concept of fueling needs. And so there's a healthy way of fueling needs, right? There's a healthy way of being sensitive, being an empath, and feeling in the space, okay, there's this person is going through something. And then I am choosing, because I am in a grounded, strong place right now, where I feel that I'm capable of supporting this person, I'm choosing to go over and support them in whatever way I feel called, right? Like that's a really healthy place to do that. It's also really healthy to realize if you see someone doing that or in need and you're not in that place. So if your health is depleting as you're experiencing and you're still putting yourself out there to help maybe, or to fuel the needs, and this is where fueling the needs can be challenging, is as you acknowledge that there's this need that must be met. So this person's feeling shitty, or they're, whatever it is. What can happen is that as an empath, there can be this belief that until this person feels fabulous or moves through this, especially if they're in your life, if it's in your intimacy, in your relationship with your partner, and your coworkers, and your neighbors next door, until that challenge has been transformed, it's actually going to be incredibly it's going to be affecting you as an empath, right? And so to fuel the needs of others sometimes is just to be like, let's just like change this because I am so affected by your challenge right now that until it actually gets changed, until it gets changed, I'm just going to feel completely out of sorts. And so that's when you need to start creating boundaries, is realizing that you can change your emotional reactions. You can change how your body is relating to the world, what you're taking on right now, right? That it doesn't require this person to be doing better. It doesn't require the earth to be in a better place. It doesn't require, Trump to not be in presidency. Sorry, that was a bad one. But realizing that you actually have the capacity right now to claim these boundaries for yourself and to know that you can start there with your health. I don't know if this is helpful. I feel like I'm just on a roll right now. But so in that is, yes, you're an empath and an intuitive, but that there's something about you feeling like you need to possibly take on more or of other people's experiences or pain in order to feel better. But that's not actually supporting you right now, because your body is showing you that you have to deal with your own personal boundaries. And in that reclaiming, you actually become that mother to the vulnerability, right? Within yourself. To become that mother to the part of you that is desiring to be this little child, like crawling to the cliff, right? That you can just allow yourself to have that freedom of expression, of sensitivity, of overflow, because there's also this part of you that you trust will step up when enough's enough, right? That you can have that internal protection while still having this safe exploration part of yourself. I don't know if that makes sense, but that was what I was feeling. So blessings to you and your ruthless compassion and that beautiful, powerful path, and knowing that it's completely okay if you come off as a bitch. Just putting these clear places down, right? If you're feeling that pull from you, because if you're ever feeling that leak or that pull from somebody and it doesn't feel right, then you need to put your boundaries down, whether it's verbally. Ideally it's verbally, because that's really direct and clear. But if it's not verbally, just noticing your pattern, even to start thinking about these people or thinking about these situations, can actually be a representation of that leak, right? That the mind shows you where there's this leak, or where there's this leak in the world within you, right? So that being said, I want to just honor my relationship with time and the people coming to pick me up. And so for Donnie and Christian and Leona, I will not be able to get to your questions today. And for everyone else, this is super important. I'm not going to be doing my Facebook Live next week because I will be traveling to a beautiful gathering in Oregon, going stuffing in Portland and Ashland. So if you have questions, you might have to come back. I'm going to check in with you all. I'm going to probably do a drip feed. So I'll send a transmission next Wednesday, but it'll be like, I'll send it from the past to the future. And you're so welcome, Katie. Katie says, it's very helpful. It goes alongside with my marriage. Lol, the other week I asked you a question about my marriage, and your response was simple. Was it worth it? And I feel like the question I asked you today just piggybacked off my marriage. Yeah, that's good. Her whole marriage question shut the whole Ask the Inviisibles off. And my internet didn't go on until it was like too late. Yes, thanks for. I will have a safe trip. I'm very excited. I'm going to be in the forest with like 700 women down by the Rouge River doing skill shares and teachings, and I'm just very excited about it. So lots of fun to be had, and I will keep you guys in the loop. If I can get back on the 6th and I'm not totally spent from long days of travel, I will come back. That'll be my next Ask the Inviisibles, but I will send you guys all that. So blessings to you on this beautiful day, and to all of the journeys that you have within you, on a personal level, on a mental level, on an experiential level, and all that you get to explore in this life. So that being said, I'm just going to ring the spell and close the space today and welcome you all off to your beautiful lives. Aloha.